Hey,
Yeah.
everybody.
Greetings. Yeah. Sorry, I'm laughing at something else. To build a new character sheet for tomorrow. Good times. Welcome to what are we called? Modern Relics Podcast, I think. Still.
We are still, officially.
That's good to hear. That we're still
Yeah.
that. We
Still cruising right
are
along.
days, hours, if you will, away from Thanksgiving 2025.
That is true. That is true. Do you like Thanksgiving?
No.
Not your jam?
Nope.
No.
It is a stumbling block between me and Christmas. It's like
Yeah.
the carrot that dangles away from Christmas time. So it's
a pretty
fun.
It's a polarizing holiday, and not in a political sense, but in a sense that some people really think that Thanksgiving deserves its due, and that they don't like that Christmas encroaches upon it. And then there's another faction of people who are like, it's kind of just an extra eating holiday in the way to Christmas.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of ceremony that they like to kind of bestow it. I would say I'm not puritanical about it, but I do love Thanksgiving. I
like being around other people at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, right? Like, you historically do not like eggnog. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's you're on an island there. There's pro eggnog and anti eggnog. I don't like pecan pie or pumpkin pie, really. I don't. I like berry pies. I love cheesecakes. I like all kinds of treats. And then you're like, well, turkey though, that's good. And it is, but it makes me so tired. And I'm kind of like, why would I eat a bunch of those things, all at one sitting? I'm there for the people, right? Like, I enjoy catching up and friends, family, loved ones, that kind of thing. But to me, it's like, that was fun. Christmas is on the way.
I can understand. There's certain people who have obviously family that, or group gatherings that are awkward for them, and it's kind of a forced awkward situation. So I totally understand that. As far as my distaste for eggnog, it's just I think that it's pancake batter that hasn't been put in a pan yet, and I don't understand why people drink it.
Yeah.
But I am a fan of the pies you said.
Right.
The pecan and the pumpkin. But I love turkey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those people and this is also very polarizing. I absolutely love stuffing. I will eat a whole box to myself. Sometimes I will make just a box of basic stovetop stuffing and just eat the whole thing to myself. I'm a fat kid, and that's what we do. But I love stuffing. I love mashed potatoes and gravy. I love all the sides and all that stuff. As I've gotten older, I cannot put down turkey or Thanksgiving dinner the way I used to. I fill a full plate thinking this is what you do traditionally. You fill up and then you go back for more. And the problem is that I've already had a Thanksgiving this year. My sister goes out of town to go to Florida every year for Thanksgiving, so we decided to have an early one.
Right.
And we're having one on Thursday.
And this is a big problem with the modern American family, is that you don't have Thanksgiving. You have 6 or 7 Thanksgivings, right? Because you've got to go to Aunt so-and-so's or my dad's or my mom's or my sister's going out of town or whatever.
Right.
And by the time, like, even those that are super high on the leftovers, like I'm doing a turkey cran sandwich for the next month.
Right.
So many leftovers from so many stops. It's a lot. I like doing non-traditional things though. Like, someone made me a dessert one time and I got the recipe. It's floating around somewhere. It's called a pumpkin nut roll. And it's basically like a sweet roll, but it's like kind of a longer bundt cake shaped one. And you spin it around. There's like, nutmegs
cream
and
cheese
cinnamon
and stuff in it.
Yeah. And then they sprinkle it with like tasty, I don't know what it is, walnuts maybe or something, whatever edible nut is supposed to go on there. I can't remember, almond, I don't know. And then it's traditionally served with like a little shot of espresso or sparkling water or something like that. And it's super good. So it's not like I'm anti-pumpkin. It's just the flat, here's pumpkin pie filling and pie crust. I'm like,
yeah,
you know, you got to drown it in whipped cream. I'll get there. It's just not my favorite. I like cherry pies and berry pies and apple pies and all that stuff.
Sucker for cherry pie too.
Yeah. And which is, we're alone in that. I'm learning there's a whole faction of fucking degenerate humans that are like, cherry pie sucks. Like, wait a minute, what? Like, it's sweet, it's tart, there's a flaky crust.
You're using the term human a little too loosely.
Yeah.
Anyone who doesn't like cherry pie, I believe, is subhuman.
Yeah. Now, the other side of that, though, is I have ascended to this immortal status of mashed potato making among everyone I know. They're like, oh, you're going to do potatoes, right? And I'm like, that takes hours. Like, how many am I feeding? Yeah. Like, okay. You know? Let me go to the store, that kind of stuff. And if I'm hosting, it's perfect because it's on the menu, right? Like it's things you plan for. But it's hilarious because someone will mention potatoes and all the heads will start to look at me like in hopes that I'll just fly out of my chair like, I've got it. Don't worry, citizen. And I'm kind of just like, okay.
You did that to yourself though, dude. You did that to yourself.
Well, it's like, and it's fine, but it's, you know what it's, you probably do. You know what it's like cooking at someone else's house with someone else's stuff and then having to try and figure out like, oh shit, do you have the right kind of mixer? Where's all your salt and spices and things that go in there? Do I have the cheese that I need and all the things? And yeah, it's wild. So, Thanksgiving, it's here.
So I'm having one on Thursday, and one of the things that, like, normally I'm the main cook in the house. My wife is a wonderful cook, but I just kind of enjoy it a little bit more. And
I love cooking.
I have a artistic flair that she's a recipe girl. She'll go full recipe, and she doesn't like, I can look in a cabinet or a fridge and create like a masterpiece out of just the stuff that's in there.
Somebody said something to me that I think resonates very powerfully all these years later. They said, cooking, you can be an artist. Baking, you have to be a scientist. You cannot experiment. And I was like, okay, well, I learned because I suck ass at baking and I can cook like a motherfucker. So, like, they're right.
But my wife is like, this is her jam. Like, I kind of just step out of the way. If she needs help with something, she kind of like kicks me over the stuff she doesn't want to do, like the sweet potatoes or whatever. I'll just kind of mix up a sweet potato batch or whatever. But I kind of just get out of the way because she shines, and I like it when she shines. And so she's sitting there, and I mean, there have been times when we have had 30 plus people at our house for Thanksgiving, including strangers that I just picked up literally off the street and brought them to the house. But people from like the shop who don't have homes to go home to, so we invite them to our house. But she has done sometimes 30 people where some of them are vegetarian or vegan, some of them are gluten-free, like, and she will accommodate for all of those people.
It's a tough holiday to be a vegan though, you know? Like,
but it's so list oriented, like it is a data sheet to make Thanksgiving
she's
dinner,
likely somewhere with like a measuring spoon and a razor blade, like just exacting off how much she needs for each step in the process kind of thing.
You should see the list that she makes every year. It is stuff. Crazy. But like, and that's the thing, is that like, she's so good at Excel spreadsheets that this is something that just fits her wheelhouse, and she does such a good job with it. So I just kind of get out of the way, and then I tell her how amazing it is, and then I try to help up with the cleanup a little bit. But we're probably gonna have a relatively small one this year.
Nice.
Like I'm not sure if we're even having really any guests over outside of the kids, like my mom and like the kids' significant others. But Kate's even being pulled to 2 different ones this year, my daughter. And so it's definitely going to be a different situation. You know, there's a couple of invites out, but We don't know. Time will tell. What about you? What are you doing?
One of my favorite things of all time is being fortunate enough to have been invited to Thanksgivings at different places where I've lived, here, there, and otherwise. Whether it's like, hey, you tag along, be on your best behavior. I don't even know these people, to close friends I haven't seen for years. Like, I'm in a fortunate position where that's occurred in my life everywhere I've gone, right? My favorite, the little spark of chaos that lives in the back of my head perpetually gets fed this unholy fire when I attend a Thanksgiving meal where I hear things like, we're going to try this out this year. And you're like, yes, you've never tried to, say, deep fry a turkey before. I've watched someone light their grass on fire with bubbling hot lava oil. And you could tell they're just disintegrating inside, where they're like, oh, because that's like the burn and all that. And you're like, perhaps we thaw it out before we dump it into 800-degree lava
that's
oil.
An explosion. Yeah.
But whatever, that, like, you don't say anything because you're in someone else's castle, it's hat in hand stuff. And you're just kind of like, you're watching through the window as cities burn and stuff. But yeah, I love that. This year, to answer your question, I'm going to a loved one's family's gathering in Denver, where it's I'm trading in this beautiful mild winter weather for Denver, Colorado. So first things first, we're anticipating a brisk 2 or 3 degree evening, I assume. Like, I shit you not, people were asking, like, they're doing the whole thing at work on a Teams call where they're, oh, how's the weather? I heard there's storms going on where you live and this and that. And everyone's like, oh, it's, 41 degrees and sleeting and raining and blah, blah, blah. And I don't say anything, but I'm reading this and I'm like, it's 67 degrees where I live. And I feel like I'm at risk of it bursting into a snow flurry at any moment. Like, so now going to Denver, I'm going to look like the Michelin Man with like 15 coats on, where I'm just like, meh. But the good news is the snow isn't supposed to arrive until after I return, and it's a quick trip. So I leave tomorrow morning at I think I fly out at 6 a.m.
Ew.
And then I come back midday Friday at points. What's killing me is ride shares to get to and from the airport, because I don't like parking my car and then paying to leave it with strangers for whatever. It's like $50, which is way unusual for getting from where I live to the airport I live next to. You know what I mean? It's just like, the holiday hike. So I'm gonna do that. But it's all pre-planned out. I don't think there's going to be any cooking. We're supposed to attend a dinner, like a reservation type of dinner. So it'll be pretty mechanical, I think, but it'll be fun to catch up with some of those folks for what it's worth. Okay. So I we'll see. I'm flying on a new airline because it's the only one that had flights that cost under $800 and stuff.
Oh, and wow.
Thing I learned about Southwest Airlines right off the bat, so I haven't flown Southwest in a long time, decades. Like, they don't have boarding. They don't have seat numbers. They have boarding groups.
No. Yeah.
And so
every time I fly to you, every time I fly down there, I'm on Southwest.
Okay. So
that's
apparently you're assigned a group based on how fast you check in.
Yeah.
So I'm like B56 because it was like 30 minutes after the check-in window. And I was like, oh, yeah, it says I could check in. Took a call, made a coffee, checked in. They're like, you don't.
Honestly, it doesn't really even matter.
So how does that work? Like, you just fight an old woman for a window seat and just may the strongest survive? Yeah.
Essentially, yeah. Your wave goes through and you just kind of search out a seat that looks best for you. And then you sit on wherever you want to. Typically, I sit near the back of the plane anyway. So,
is that psychological?
Yeah.
Because every plane crash, like the tail end is sticking up off the ground while the rest is decimated, or why is that?
Yeah, it's multiple reasons. That's definitely one of them. If it's an empty plane, I'm still sitting in the back.
Sure.
And the reason, that's one of the reasons, but also it's the same thing that I have where I have to sit in the corner of the room facing the door, like no matter where we're at. It's that same mentality. And also, people don't like to sit in the back, so it tends to be emptier back there.
Sure.
So, for all of those reasons, and I'm never really in a rush, I'm not trying to make a connecting flight.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, so getting me off the plane first is never a priority. So, I'll sit there and I'll time it and I'll be like, oh, okay, I still have 20 minutes on this movie that I started. I'll just finish it up while I'm sitting here because I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And then everyone gets off the plane, and then I'm fine. Like, but it is a weird seating. But if you we've tested it, Erin will always the minute it dings, she'll have a timer waiting, and then the minute it dings, it still puts me in B. I don't think I've ever gotten an A.
I wonder if they pre-reserve the early bird check-in, you can pay us more to get in ahead of the curve thing. It just blocks out the A block or something. I don't know.
It might do that for sure. Yeah. But, there's a whole C category after you, so you're not dead last at least. But
yeah, I know you probably haven't. I have flown with musical instruments before, and I always like sitting as close as I can to the emergency exit so I can watch the grounds crew beat the shit out of the instruments as they throw them around. It just brings a tear to my eye before the flight. It's always a good thing. I don't know what to expect, but it'll be hopefully really fun. It's a pretty quick turnaround, and then
I was gonna say, is that a 2-hour flight?
Should be about a 2-hour flight, so it's almost the same amount of time to get to where you're at from me via the air as it would be to go there. The altitude always kicks my ass. I think the good news is moving away from sea level to where I'm at now, it is quite a bit higher in altitude than one would expect just on paper. And so the last time I was there, it was not near as knock me on my ass as when I was going from Seattle to there. Because that's a lot to take in. You just get really lightheaded and the air's too thin and very cold. So hopefully it'll be fun. And I'm looking forward to not being in charge of anything, which would be kind of fun. And then on to Christmas. That's when you're
going to get to your dinner reservations, and the host is going to come over and go, we were told that you could make the potatoes.
That's probably going to happen. That's probably going to happen. Sorry.
Well, good luck. Have fun.
Yeah, thanks.
It'll be a good time.
It should be a good time. We'll see. But yeah, Christmas I'm excited about. So there's that.
Yeah. Let's make this kind of a quick show because you got to get up stupid early.
I do. There was an announcement in late September that somehow skipped my radar. I don't know how this happened. But it was a message delivered by Sir Keir Starmer, who's the UK government head of their finances, I think. What's the most two important roles there? There's prime minister, and then there's foreign secretary.
I think isn't he the prime minister?
Is he the prime minister?
I believe so.
Sure.
Let me see.
So if that's the case, he is the most important guy in their government.
Yeah, hold on.
I know that because they have kings and queens and shit over there. I know they're mostly aesthetic, but I don't know what the actual parliamentary power distribution is there. So anyway, as you're looking that up so we don't mess up his position in government, what they announced was they're introducing a mandatory digital ID called BritCard. And this is going to be required to prove a person's right to work in the country.
Yeah, he is the prime minister.
Okay.
Keir Starmer.
So the new system is going to be stored in a free smartphone app. Not scary at all. And it will require employers to use it for right to work checks, making it mandatory for new employment from a proposed implementation date of around 2028 or 2029. While the digital ID will not be mandatory for other services, not just yet, it will be required for new job applications after it goes live. So here's some key details of this ID. It's mandatory for work. It's going to be a legal requirement for employers to verify this thing in order for an employee's right to work. Storage. The ID will be stored on citizens' phones in the gov.uk wallet. The data included will include information such as your name, your date of birth, your nationality, your residency status, and a photo. Voluntary for other services. While mandatory for work, it will remain optional for other services like accessing healthcare, and perhaps one day even putting your food points from shopping at the local grocery on there. Implementation. The system is planned to be implemented by the end of the current parliament with the proposed dates of 2028 or 2029. So some benefits and concerns. The benefits is the government claims it will simplify identity verification and will cut the faff, that's a quote, for people trying to prove their identity and also help combat things like illegal immigration by making it harder for undocumented workers to find jobs. Great. Excellent storefront for some bullshit.
Right.
The concerns. Critics have raised concerns about the potential for mass surveillance, data security risks, identity theft, the possibility of the system being used against law-abiding citizens in a myriad of fashions.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, and this is some clips that I saw from other people's talk shows, but allegedly some of the banks in the UK are giving data to the users of the banks on how much their spending patterns equate to carbon footprint. Like what you spend your money on, how much carbon footprint, and like, oh, that's a fun game. Man, we could see if we could buy something local or be more green or whatever. But it's aggregating your carbon footprint with your costs. And I don't think it's a far stretch to imagine if you knit both of these together, you will have the power to access every facet of those citizens' lives and also impose things like, well, you can't buy gasoline because your allotted carbon footprint is way too big. And suddenly your grocery points don't work for redemption, or maybe you can't buy groceries at the till anymore because you've overspent on your carbon footprint. Like, where else does it sound like this? What's a word for it? Social credit
Dystopian?
system. Where else do you think we've seen that before? And why is that a really, really fucking bad idea for Western civilization?
I mean, the examples typically are found in dystopian literature and movies and TV shows.
Craziness.
Yeah. And how you can be of adult age and working within the government and having access, and not only access, but being flooded with this type of media, that this was the component that made the bad guys.
Yeah.
How you could be so aware of those things and not go, oh, we're the bad guys. There's no way you can't. So these are people who are actively choosing to be the bad guys, to say we want to control society in a way that is so crippling to freedom, so crippling to humanity, that they're willing to just kind of go all in and go, oh yeah, no, but still trying to pass it off as like, oh no, we're with the facade of we're doing this to stem the migration issues.
Here's what I don't understand about their government, which it admittedly is quite a bit. I truly don't fundamentally understand how their government works. I understand provincial level stuff, and there are some deep parallels to Canadian law and stuff with England, and I get that it's a correlation, but it's not a mirror image of it. What I don't understand is the fact that what I'm seeing all over the internet are people in all-out revolt against these policies that are coming out by Britain's government in Britain. millions of people taking to the streets, not a couple hundred, not a couple thousand, like millions flooding the streets, protesting stuff like this. And yet it persists, and it's going to be a mandatory deliverance from their government. So it's like, well, if you elected these people and they have unilateral power in your government where they're not held to account by their constituency somehow, maybe there's reasons for that I don't understand, but it's quite obvious the majority of the citizens are like, this is a bridge way too fucking far. Like, now we can't get work without signing up for your Go wallet system. What? This is absurd. And meanwhile, you've got people getting picked up at the airport when they land in Britain and arrested for shit that they're saying on the internet.
That's what I was going to say.
Like,
that's what I was going to say. This is dovetailed with that, with the concept
out
that
there?
We're supposed to, like, as a British citizen, as a citizen of the UK, we're supposed to trust this implemented tool in any capacity from the steel-fisted government that is literally arresting people for liking comments on Facebook that go against their policies that aren't even legal. And yet you'll get yellow vested cops knocking at your door going, did you write this on the internet? Come with us, please.
And
they get black bagged like it's V for Vendetta.
Yeah, this is not two right-wing radicals from America poking fun at something. There are hundreds of videos showing cops showing up to people's doors, like in one case attempting to arrest a man's daughter who was like basically just past grade school age, entering junior high for us, because of some shit that she said on the internet. And
if you look at the numbers on,
we're not being hyperbolic. This is literally going on in droves, and I don't understand how the government is not being held to account by an obvious horde of citizenry that are very against these policies. It seems
right.
I don't know how they're allowed to get away with this. Like,
well, what's happening is you're going to start seeing what happened in Indonesia, where they just ripped everybody out of parliament and out of their government buildings and literally, and without, like, no joke, threw them in dumpsters and then took over. That's what they just did in Indonesia like a year ago.
Yeah.
So, but, if you look at the numbers, if you look at actually online, if you look at how many arrests were made because of social media posts, China, there's Canada, there's the United States, there's China, there's a bunch of other ones, but China comes in second with like 300 and 400, somewhere around there, if I'm not mistaken, the last I looked. And the UK comes in at a whopping like 14,000. Like, that's how many people are being arrested for social media posts that are considered hate speech or considered just not nice, or liking a post. I mean, it is not. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. I'm not saying that I'm not being hyperbolic in any capacity. This is actually what's happening.
And I mentioned earlier, like, I try to temper my American sass when I visit other countries where I recognize that I was born in a place that had a constitution and that provides me the ability to have free speech and, other conditions of freedom and the beautiful theocratic monarchy that we're all going to become. In this constitutional republic that we live in, and I don't understand all the policies, so I try to keep the sass point down where I can when I'm a visitor. But one thing I noted about this Brit card stuff and it being mandatory to even enter European countries is that they're commanding that non-EU citizens submit to things like fingerprinting and biometrics and stuff. And they instituted this 2 days before I was supposed to land in Spain, and all the machines were broken, so we got to do it the old-fashioned way, and the clairvoyance hit like I just got ran over by a train. I was like, this is the last time I'll ever get to go to Europe. There's no fucking way I'm going to submit to that willingly going forward. And now they're saying, I as of more recent than the September thing that just somehow skipped my radar, they're saying they're going to turn away travelers, even with valid, whatever country you're from, federally issued or state issued identification to travel, in our case, a passport. That's the world standard for NATO countries. And it's not for Europe. Europe's like, nope, you give us biometrics and submit to these ID checks and build yourself a profile on our system, or you don't get to come in and hang out. And I was just like, that's it. Like, I went to Italy in 2018. Pandemic happened during, like, right after I came back from Mexico. And I was like, cool, I'm going to go to Spain. Had that planned for a year, went. And I was like, this is it. Like, I'm never going to get to go to Europe ever again from here. Like, there's no fucking way I'm going to willfully submit to, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, how far away now is the United States from that, with the implementation of things like Real ID and stuff like that are now mandatory for domestic travel? You know, I don't have one because I still have a valid passport, but when I go to renew my driver's license, I assure you they're going to force me into the Real ID piece. And it's like, well, what does that really get you if I already have a passport?
Right.
Why do we have this system?
They're definitely dipping their toes in it here. Yeah. They're trying as much as they can to kind of to hit the corners and try to see where the easy spots to get in are. They're looking for every weak link in the fence that they can squeeze in a little bit of here and a little bit of there. And, you know, we've got a lot of the hyper vigilant conspiracy theorist types who are very much aware of the smart city boom that is trying to take over, which is in correlation and in song with these with this type of implementation. So they, you know, you've got a lot of people over here screaming, and man, fortunately for the United States, we end up seeing what happens in real time in Europe that we can take an example from and go, we don't want that. And then it fails miserably over there or becomes a disaster or whatever. And we then have the ability to hopefully pay attention and stop it here. Plus, we have the Second Amendment to kind of back that up, and the First Amendment as well. However, it doesn't mean they're not going to keep trying. They're going to chip away at everything that they can in order to create that credit score. Yeah. And they're going to do it because it's the only way. It's the only way that they will maintain systematic control. You know, we're saying they all the time, but, you know, over when you're talking about, you know, the EU, when you're talking about, you know, Kabbalist level, kind of governance on a global scale is who you're really talking about when you say they. But I mean, there's obviously a push for control. There's obviously a push to keep people in a certain system that has been built that benefits certain people and is needed for useful people to be a part of that system, because there's no way that you could implement this stuff, especially knowing the literature and the media behind. You know, there was a lot of prolific sci-fi writers who looked at the writing on the wall and looked out and said, this is bad, and I'm going to write a story about this as maybe a lesson to be learned. And, you know, we're running, we're screaming to get to the next level of AI. And now we're also allowing ourselves to be leashed and harnessed to a tracking system for the benefit of what? So that they can track our employment history and our carbon foot. You know, there's no way.
I would like to say that we learned from other companies failing at that, and then we immediately elect Katie Wilson and Zoran Mamdani in places like Seattle and New York. Like,
yeah,
you know. Yeah.
I would hope.
Yeah.
I would hope that we, as a nation, still have a semblance of that American spirit, that we would never let it fully take foot here, that we would push back on it, and that it would become too hard for them to actually do that. Do I have the hope in most of the United States and Western culture to do that? I don't know anymore. I don't know if they aren't just going to be offered a Walmart gift card and everyone's just going to go right along with it.
We're going to give you some sort of benefits check from the government if you just sign up and everyone's on board. Yeah.
Yeah. And they just file right in and go into it. And I wish that wasn't the case, but you spend enough time dealing with the general public, it's really hard to see anything other than that scenario kind of playing out.
It's amazing what people willfully sign up for.
We have the tools to fight back on it. We have the tools to say we're not doing that here. At our dispense, written in stone, and we have the ability to do it as far as our American spirit goes. But the vast majority of the people here now, I think that the tide has turned, that the vast majority of the people do not understand those tools, do not care for them, in fact, and but they also are willing to sell that American spirit for a $2,000 government check.
Yeah.
And
I agree, because I would like to look at England and call it a failed state. But I don't know enough about their government to confidently say that. You know what I mean? Where I'm too ignorant to their rules and regulations to confidently say that. But it sure appears like there's a lot of unhappy citizens about what's going on there and how fast it's come to pass. Yeah, it was stark enough for me to look into it a little bit, having picked up on this information maybe 3 days ago and actually kind of looking at all the data points around it. It's pretty frightening.
It is frightening. And I think that if they try to implement they already have the Star Card here, and we need to make sure that on the state level for each state, find people, because that's one of the beauties and the hardships for them and the beauties for us is that we're 50 states and each state can implement its own legal structure to say, we won't allow this here, which becomes very imperative for them. They cannot cross state lines, and that makes it really hard for them to get everybody on board if 22 of the states are saying, yeah, we're not doing this. So talk to your state legislatures, talk to people about making sure that they don't implement these things, no matter how much they sugarcoat it, no matter how much they dress it up. You can put lipstick on a pig and it's still a pig. That you got to make sure that that your state that you're living in, and some of you are just SOL, Washington, Oregon, California, New York, you guys are gonna end up with this. But the rest of the country, you have a shot to kind of go to your state legislatures and go, you need to write a bill to ban this immediately and get it pushed through. Find allies, find more than one legislator you can talk to so they can band together, and start writing out, use AI for good, right? Use AI to actually help you write this bill and say, we do not want this, and have it run through legal on their end, on the legislator's end, and then push it through and make sure that they write it and codify it into state law that you cannot implement any type of system that keeps the freedom of your employment history, that keeps having anything to do with a green carbon footprint, anything like that. You can add as much in there as you want or write multiple bills, but it can be stopped. You just have to have people who know what the problem is and know how to address it properly. And I have a feeling Idaho will probably be discussing some of that in the next couple of months here when legislature gets back into session. But so scary stuff, though. Scary stuff.
Yeah, it's frightening, and people argue with me all the time on it. Like, okay, well, you have a passport and you have a driver's license, and you gave the ATF a bunch of your information to purchase category weapons and this and that and the other thing. So what's the difference? It's like, well, the difference is, while I still hate that very much, it's documented by a country that I'm from that guarantees me due process. So at least, at the very least, I have a shot at defending myself under the current laws of the land where I'm from. I would not give my information to another country, whether they're an ally or not, any more than is legally necessarily required to in order to traverse in and out of country lines up to the point that we've reached today. And like, that's my line in the sand. You don't get my biometric data. And if I get turned away at the border and say, wait here for your flight the fuck out of here, I guess that's what I have to do, Like, I'm just over it. So anyway, it's weird and it's scary. Yeah. And I hope that this gets overturned with masses and masses of people saying this is a bridge way too far. We're not going to do it,
Yeah.
But
I agree.
They don't fear their citizens.
Yeah. And they should. Any government should fear its citizens.
They should. They've stripped them of a lot of the independences. The economy is trash, and they don't own guns. So why would they be feared? Scary business. So in other news, we go from Thanksgiving to doom and gloom and end times. I did want to put up a little bit of a PSA for all of you nerds like me. A little buyer's guide, a little protection. I have a hobby of building computers. I like putting parts together to make a computer. I've been doing it for a little while. And unfortunately for me, there was a crypto mining craze. It turns out that the type of math problem that you need to do to reinforce blockchain mathematics and checks, a component of a computer is wildly good at that in the graphics card. And so since 2017 and then again in 2020, graphics cards were so wildly overpriced in the market because everyone was buying them up and then building these crypto mining farms out of them, that it was impossible for enthusiast or hobbyist PC builders that buy these components for video games to video editing or just to have. The consumer market got absolutely crippled with price inflation on the rest of this. And so those days are not too far behind us, but suddenly RAM, random access memory, is really expensive. To paint you a picture of this, 2 32 gig sticks of matching DDR5 memory only 8 or 9 months ago was about $250 for various speeds and latencies and things that you could buy for that component. The same stick is like $639 now. Like, well, why is that? Well, once again, AI is the problem for this. I'm going to read you some stuff that they're coming out with as far as announcements from places like OpenAI. And a lot of this AI shit, to me, feels a lot like a bubble that we saw in the dot-bomb era, and it feels a lot like the bubble that we saw in the housing crisis in 2008. And it is principally because the big companies at the top are investing in each other with these dollars that are floating around, and it's kind of artificially valuating their companies without really shipping a product that's super duper transformative. People that use AI think it's great, the ChatGPTs of the world. But here's what reports are saying. The AI demand for memory alone, the RAM, has led to an artificial shortage Some reports are indicating that AI firms have locked down as much as 40% of the global DRAM output worldwide. 40%. This intense price-insensitive demand, particularly for high bandwidth memory, is the primary cause of skyrocketing memory prices and market inflation. Because quintessentially, after 2026, probably Q2, Q3, they've pre-ordered everything that everyone will make in the world. It all goes to them now. Like, those orders have been placed. So some key factors in this memory price inflation. There's a massive AI data center demand. Construction and expansion of the AI data centers caused by companies like OpenAI, Google, and Microsoft require enormous amounts of memory. AI servers often use up to 1.5 terabytes of DRAM per node, which is a significant increase in memory requirements per server compared to traditional servers, like by a lot. Massive supply deals. So OpenAI's Stargate initiative notably secured 900,000 DRAM wafers per month from major suppliers like Samsung and SK and Hynix. These are the three major wafer companies that create things that get rebranded as whatever brand name buys it and sells it as random access memory, right? So that's locking in about half the global supply and now triggering panic buying. And when panic buying happens, prices go way up, like way, way up. Some other things to think about. The manufacturing shift to this high bandwidth memory, that's going to prioritize the production of high margin memory or high bandwidth memory chips. And that's used in really high end pieces of equipment and AI accelerators like NVIDIA GPUs. So over a standard consumer, the enterprise DDR4, DDR5 memory is going to be prioritized in all these orders. And the shift is going to create scarcity of lower end non-commercial grade equipment components that's going to continue to drive the price up until they just stop producing them because they can't make enough for these big AI companies. So the AI demand is making the price not very flexible or elastic in any way. And I think that's killing a market where the GPU, the graphics card, its primary focus for decades was to enable video games to run faster and render lower resolution imagery into higher resolution imagery through a different type of processing. So market dynamics are going to get nuts. And the knock-on effect, in my opinion, is the shortage is going to ripple through the entire tech industry and the consumer market. And it's going to crush the affordability of everything from consumer-grade PCs and laptops all the way down to your Xbox gaming consoles and even the little Raspberry Pi nodes that people use to program them to do stuff. Which, notably, the CEO of the Raspberry Pi people, they reported memory costs have already increased 120%. In just this year. So, as we approach Black Friday and all the big shopping season stuff, the philosophy I'll deliver is the best time to plant an oak tree was 50 years ago. The next best time is right now. So before memory prices go even further up, if you're looking to purchase computer parts and you can afford to purchase memory that's going to last you on a 4 or 5 year runway, I would probably secure that this year before the supply begins to break. The demand is already there, but the supply will break by 2026 when these orders start getting fulfilled. And then we're going to ride the wave, and we're going to see if this AI shit is truly going to take over everything, or if it's really just a big bubble and it's going to cause a lot of market deviation and crashing. I mean, NVIDIA's valuation eclipsed, I think it was $4 trillion like 2 months ago. It's beating Apple, and Apple ships a fucking product. You can go buy an Apple phone. You can buy an iPod, as far as I understand it still. Maybe they discontinued that, but you can get a MacBook. I mean, right. You can't just go to the store and buy AI. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So 40% of the global supply in the world over the next 2 years in ordering. Wow. What are we doing?
So, my question is, do you think that, because I don't know, have you heard anything about the kind of because you were saying the data or mining for the servers that mine for like Bitcoin and such, the crypto mining that takes up a lot of this memory, right? And so that's where a lot of it's been going, besides the AI factor, that those two components, AI obviously dwarfing the cryptocurrency memory storage, but they're contributing to this, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so that being said, do you think that because in the last week there's been a big Bitcoin crash and crypto crash, specifically Bitcoin, due to the announcement that Epstein was, I wouldn't say he was involved in a heavy capacity of investment or something to that effect.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked into it entirely, but it was already on a downward slope, and then that got announced and it crashed it. And so, like, do you think that will create a pressure release at least a little bit on this bubble, this balloon that AI is creating, or is it a totally separate issue?
It's a separate issue. I think with the crypto mining stuff, so the basic idea is it comes down to architecture. So try not to flame me too hard if I fuck this up, everybody that knows more about this than me. But the graphics processing units are excellent at what would be considered parallel processing, allowing thousands of calculations simultaneously. Where central processing units, your chip, your CPU chip, those are designed for sequential processing. So they're a lot slower in like heavy mathematical operations. And that's what AI uses. That's also what the blockchain used, but in a slightly different style. But the same methodology is what made the GPU way better at that task. And people found out pretty quickly, well, fuck, if I buy a bunch of these and I stack them up to only do Bitcoin mining, for example, well, then if I have 50 of them, then 49 other dudes don't have one. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's kind of the same problem. It's just a different problem set. So I think that when people recognized that it's a bit futile at the rate that you could mine Bitcoins without one of these massive farms that you could build out of all this expensive hardware, the likelihood is you're likely going to pay more in your own electricity bill at home trying to support constant runtime of a very power hungry device. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze. I'm paying more for the electric bill, but I'm not actually mining enough Bitcoin to make this a valuable proposition. So those that were not ahead of the curve with lots and lots and lots of these devices at their disposal quickly found a better hobby to go try and do. Doesn't mean everyone doesn't do it still, but it's not as popular. The AI piece, similar thing. It requires massive parallel processing, heavy mathematical operations, and especially when you look at some of these deep learning algorithms and stuff, what they require is specialized hardware that are known as tensor cores in modern GPUs, essentially. That accelerates those computations to a wild degree compared to regular linear central processing in sequence. And so I think that probably was a black eye on the market valuation, whatever you're referencing on the Epstein stuff, that probably caused a market dip. But I don't think it's a market shift because AI is a little bit different. I think that's just a crazy amount of promises with the demand that they have not shipped a product yet for,
right?
Other than ChatGPT, in variations of it called whatever the hell you call it, that get nested into new enterprise grade softwares and then sold to big businesses as the answer to your human staffing problem. But the demand for VRAM rather than graphics card has changed direction. So it's different problem set, and it's attacking a different type of hardware device. But when you boil it all down to supply chain, there's only 5 places that produce these silica wafers and actually create You have to bin them, and then they have to get rated, and they have to run a certain voltage. And that's where you get, like, if you're to go shopping for a graphics card, for example, the higher binned graphics cards are way more expensive, and they're labeled like, you know, oh, this is the 3090, whereas the 3050 or 60 can only do so much. Well, they're all produced at the same spot, even if they're branded by a board partner. So I have the NVIDIA one, and well, I have the AMD one, and well, mine came from Asus, and mine came from MSI or whatever. All the board partners get the architecture from NVIDIA and AMD, and then they get the wafers from the same 6 manufacturers that sell them to AMD and NVIDIA, and they get the bin ratings for each of these silica wafers, and they build a card out of it, and then put lights in it, and their branding on it, and they sell it to you as their product or whatever. It's the same stuff. It's all the same stuff,
right.
and memory is no different. So I think when you have mega data centers that are now being built, ground is breaking on these things. Well, we're going to build, Google says, a nuclear reactor to run the amount of power necessary to run this mega data center. And so, like, all this RAM is just being purchased for the construction of these massive data wells. And
well, we're trying to fight them in Idaho. Like right now, they're trying to build some down in the Boise area. Oh, yeah. And we are actually creating legislation against it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you know what's funny?
Because of it, mainly because of the water usage, to be honest with you. So,
you know what's funny? Like, didn't everybody get up in arms and be like, look, alternative energy is a bountiful basket of methodologies we can pick from. You have your solar and your wind farms, and you've got your nuclear power plants, hydro, and there's a cornucopia of methods we can use to create the basis for an electrical reaction. And everybody on the Greenpeace side is up in arms about how anti all of this is, with the exception of solar. Well, then tell the data centers that backed all these politicians for all these years to just use solar power. Wonder why they're not building solar farms to back their AI data centers. Maybe because it's not a good alternative.
Yeah. When you think that if you needed to build such a massive data center, that you would automatically just implement nothing but solar for it, because it's so
point
efficient.
The big solar panel at the sun, it's there every day, and then just store it in a battery bank. And then you could even save money by selling it back to your local utility company and the overage wattage that you're banking on capacitor volume. It's funny because I had, I live in a sunny area, and I get these door-to-door salespeople, and I also get the phone calls. Oh, did you know that in your state you can get a free solar, blah, 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 if you sign up for our whatever? And I started marking them down, and over 3 years, I've been hit 125 times propositioned for solar energy as an alternative. And one guy called me, and his supervisor was monitoring the call and then also joined the call. And I was able to talk them both down with logic on why I thought solar was a bad idea. I'm like, I'll talk to you if you want. I'm not going to buy anything from you, but, well, why isn't this a good idea? And then she jumps in, well, did you know savings dollars? And I'm not biting on any of the value propositions that they're giving. It's like, well, what do you think is the core problem with the solar thing? I was like, look, the architecture of how your company works, like all the rest of them, is quite simply this. I'm going to have to pay you $50,000 to install a solar array on the roof of my house, and I'm going to end up having to put it on lease because I don't have $50,000, and that lease is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 years long. And then at 10 years or 15 years, when all the panels die and need to be purchased from another Chinese panel manufacturer for another $25,000 or $30,000, you're just going to pack that on the back end of the lease and scoop me out another 10 years. I'll never be able to catch the value of what you're claiming to provide. Meanwhile, the per kilowatt hour does not justify any savings whatsoever over getting it from the power company, other than supplemental. That I will yield. If I could get 2 or 3 panels and supplement my usage, especially in the summertime, great. But the hardware itself dies 10 to 15 years before the lease expires. That's how you perpetually win. And then I think I'm not only going green, but I also have this renewable energy source that's just going to never end. And it's going to be adequate enough to run what I run in the house, which for most of us is a refrigerator, a freezer, a TV, a computer or two, the lights in the house. If you're on gas, you don't have to worry about your oven or, your heating and stuff, but certainly air conditioning and things like that. These are high users of this type of stuff. I'm like, the logic is broken. And they both agreed with me. They're like, well, yeah, you're not wrong on any of what you just said. I'm like, and that's why this is not, please lose my number. Like, I will never buy solar energy from your prepackaged deal. I don't give a shit what government subsidies you're going to try to entice me with on tax write-offs. It's not worth it. Oh, wow. Yeah, that was the most educated get fucked we've ever heard. Thanks, man. I was like, dude, I'm just doing basic mathematics. Like,
yeah.
And all these solar panels are coming from Chinese manufacturers anyway. So what? I'm supposed to now pay tariffs against that? All for the sake of bragging rights that I'm going green? The amount of upfront expense and long-term cost on a lease far exceeds the value of the difference between paying the utility company a floating rate over the summertime. Period. So yeah. I'll keep paying the man. Unfortunately.
The only time that I think solar is applicable at all in any capacity, because it's obviously we've been trying this for 50 years now. Yeah, and we can't seem. You would think that if it was so abundant and that it was so efficient that everything would be working off of solar by this point after 50 years of the trial period. There were times, growing up out in the woods, we had a couple of solar panels that one of them was dedicated to our well pump. And then it would store, off of a battery system, and we would just be able to use our well with the solar panel. I lived off grid. I lived where there wasn't power, and we used very limited power. That way we didn't have to use our generator as much. We had a whole bank of car batteries that we would actually feed 2 solar panels into that was sitting out over the garden. And that would, feed the lights for 2 days if we needed it, right? Or whatever the case may be. And we would keep that all going as much as possible. But even on a small capacity, it wasn't really meant for high usage. It was meant for the pump and for a little bit of electrical within the house. The rest of it was based off of generator and battery, and those were more efficient tools for the job.
Totally.
Even on that small capacity, but they were good to kind of alleviate some of the necessity of the generator.
Right, because now you're combating that with fuel prices to run the generator, right? So that's where I would yield. I would say, I agree that in a supplemental fashion, it can be beneficial from time to time. Say you have a power outage for half a day or something, and you can keep things floating. But imagine your garden scenario, even duplicating the panels and generating with larger batteries that also fail and need to be replaced over time.
This was in the mid to late 80s.
Yeah, and you're not running like a drop freezer power on that thing. You're running stuff for what were you using it for? Garden lights and things of that nature?
Yeah. Not even garden lights. It was just set up in the garden because that's where all the sun hit. Mm-hmm. It would just feed the battery packs, car battery, group that we had for certain lights and like the TV, I think was a part of that, but that was about it. Mm-hmm. All of our other, our stove was all propane. Mm-hmm. Our hot water heater was propane. All of that was all propane. So we didn't really have electrical anything outside of the very minimal, light bulbs and the TV, and that was about it. So we didn't have a lot to draw off of it. But what's funny is the technology literally has not changed from the mid 80s to 2025 as far as...
you went from lead acid prevalency to a split between lead acid and lithium ion, but they all have expiration dates.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
anyway, if you're going to buy computer parts, you should probably do it before the end of this year, because the supply is running out. against the future demand that has already been forecasted, and purchase orders are flying through for these big companies. And unfortunately for you, because of this artificial shortage that we're not sure we're going to keep up with the demand on, it's driving the prices out of control. So you're going to pay high prices for some of these components. The good news is the graphics cards have kind of come back down to earth. They're now hovering around manufacturer's suggested retail price. But the RAM is out of control. Like 4 times, 5 times the value of what this should cost just to get one. It's that panic buy thing that is extraordinarily predatory, and that's commerce, unfortunately. But next year it's going to be rough, because if this is to hold and all these things get built, all of the lower end cards, chips, RAM sticks that nobody wants, they're going to stop producing them. Suddenly you're going to have to pay thousands of dollars just to get a mid-grade or high-end component, because that's all they're going to make nowadays, because that's what's required for these mega centers. So just note that slowly the dinosaur that was PC building as a hobbyist or an enthusiast is likely going to squelch itself out if this is to hold true. So spend the money now, even though it's a little higher if you're going to do it, but future-proof yourself if you can, and we'll see if there's a bubble that's actually going to pop.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, you have new ideas for the show tonight.
I do. I have a new segment I'd like to try out.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, I'm going to call this segment The Dope.
Yes.
And the reason I'm calling it The Dope is because as we've just been going through segments that the algorithm feeds us. The algorithm feeds us typically 80 to 90% negativity that is anxiety driven, doom and gloom.
We're all consumers of porn. This is just fear porn. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it becomes weary on the soul. It really does. To the point where, you start looking for corners of the universe where where God is actually, there's pockets of happiness or pockets of joy or anything. And you kind of, attach yourself to those things. And there's a whole slew of things that the algorithm that I have kind of cultivated on my algorithm that kind of, I go to when, especially locally, all the stuff that we deal with, like I haven't even told you half the stuff that's happened this week.
I can't fathom just seeing how much you're on your phone and connected to that stuff, even while you're away from that area. I couldn't fathom doing it as hard and fast as you and the wife are participating in all that crazy. I can't.
Right. So my brain needs a reprieve every once in a while. And so what I end up doing is I kind of go into what, is often called like brain rot. But what I try to find wholesome brain rot. I try to find creative brain rot. I try to find stuff that is edifying, kind of removes itself from all of the other things and gives me kind of a good dopamine hit, which is why I'm calling it The Dope, because it's kind of brain rot dopey. I find these not really sites, but like channels, if you will. I find them to be dope, and it gives me that dopamine hit. And I
love this because A, the name is funny.
Yeah.
But B, it almost sounds like a sales pitch to a 12-step program of going outside and touching grass. Like, no, we're not there yet. We're still in the digital universe. We're just finding wholesome dopamine.
Yeah, exactly. And so
here's a curated list.
I have a ton, and I'm going to do one a week, and just kind of focus on it and kind of point people in the direction of stuff that brings me joy.
Yeah.
Now, it may not be your cup of tea, but I want to put eyes on these creators, these people who are finding little pockets of joy. And the first one I've picked is one that has really captivated me, and it's due to the fact that I'm a gamer. We game every week. Mm-hmm. You're a gamer. And this guy by the name of Jacob Powells, Pauwels. Jacob has created a really, really fun channel, and you can find him on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and he has a bunch of other channels, but the one that I watch is called Adventures in Aardia, Aardia.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a whole show that he's been doing for years where every day of the week, and he's just a normal guy. He's a dad. He's married. He's got a couple of kids, younger kids. You never really get to see them, but he references them quite a bit. And he is a big Dungeons and Dragons nerd. And so every day he makes his lunch, but he has this whole setup of like different kind of Dungeons and Dragons themed backgrounds and pieces. And he's got his little, dice rolling tower here and different knives and stuff. And he makes a show called Roll for Sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
And basically he writes down on 5 different lists of all of the breads, all of the mains, all of the roughage.
This is great.
Like a kind of a weird thing to put on it, and then a sauce. And it's just what he has in his house. So like if he has 8 different types of bread in his house, he'll write down all 8 of it on a list, and then he will roll to see what kind of bread. It could be waffles, it could be bagels, it could be sourdough, it could be rye, it could be whatever he has. It freezer ends.
The pure dice roll
of
value,
whatever,
and that ingredient goes into the sandwich.
Right.
This
and
is
so
awesome.
then like the main will be anything from ham to 1,000-year-old duck eggs that he has to or like weird fish that he got from a trip to Japan.
Right.
Or like
tuna fish or some crazy shit.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and it's wild. There's some crazy ones. And he's got over 400 episodes. The Wild Magic one, well, then he'll roll 2 roughage dice. So he'll get like tomatoes and lettuce, or he'll get like pickled onions and some other kind of kale or something like that, right? It's whatever's in his fridge. And so then the Wild Magic is sometimes it's a spritz of water, sometimes it's a weird seasoning, or some chips or something that he's picked up. It's all like weird stuff.
Yeah.
And then the sauce is like whatever sauces he has on deck. Mm-hmm. And he makes a sandwich out of it, he cuts it, he shows you the cross section, and then he eats it and rates it and names it. And there's like fluty medieval type of music in the background, very softly playing.
I like this. Yeah.
He's just a really pleasant guy, and he's really smart and clever, and he has a good time with it. And if he gets a really bad sandwich, he takes those dice that he used, and he uses different dice every episode. And he takes those dice, and he's got this sandwich monster that he throws them in, and they eat them, and he never uses those dice again.
Brilliant.
But he's actually made cookbooks out of his sandwiches that are actually being sold at like Barnes and Noble and stuff.
Nice.
It is so much fun to watch because you get to go along in this weird dice rolling adventure to see what kind of sandwich. And sometimes the sandwiches are great, and sometimes they are horrific monsters.
Yeah.
And they are fun to see what he gets, and it's just kind of an escape for the brain. But he's such a wholesome guy and such a wholesome channel, and I really enjoy watching this guy kind of get enjoyment out of making a sandwich, but doing it in a really fun way. And kind of he gets asked to travel around to go to different like conventions and stuff where he gets to do live performances of doing the roll for sandwich and stuff. But he seems to be a good dad. Like sometimes one of the roughages is like the fruit that my children didn't eat yesterday.
Oh.
And so he has to pull fruit out of the fridge.
Yikes.
But like, he's a good dad. He seems like a really, really sweet guy. And it's just kind of wholesome fun. And it's short. They're like 2 to 3 minutes long. And he does them every day, except for on weekends. He does them Monday through Friday. And he has a good time. And I'm enjoying every day getting a new episode. And there's so many back catalog that you can watch them forever. But it's a great time. It's a really fun.
That's
fun
awesome.
Show.
So this week's episode launching The Dope, and we're highlighting Roll for Sandwich, which sounds fun,
Roll
dude.
for Sandwich. by Jacob Powell's, and his channel is called Adventures in Aardia, Aardia.
Adventures in Aardia, or Aardia. I don't know what it is.
Aardia, yeah,
that's awesome.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah.
Have you thought about rolling for Sandwich? Like having been inspired by this in your real life when no one's looking, no cameras?
I've thought about it.
Yeah.
I've thought about it. Yeah. But I think what stops me is that I'm too hungry to make a bunch of lists of the food that's in our house to roll for. So I go someday I'll do it. But for future episodes, I've got a lot of different types of channels that I watch. There are stuff about weird, odd kind of cooking shows. Like there's a channel called Dead Greg's Recipes that I'll be doing. There is one called Cooking with Levi. There's ones about tattoos. There's ones about sports. There's ones about sports cards. There's different rappers that I absolutely find intriguing and weird. There's a lot of wholesome stuff on the internet that I think that
I'm surprised.
I would like to promote,
and I think it's great. Like I am surprised at how popular some of those collectible shows are, where it's just like watching people unboxing stuff. Like just the visceral reaction. Like you can watch people watching this and how excited they are at whatever's going to come out of this wrapper, especially if it's a trading card situation. Because what if I get this, or what if I land on this card, or anything from.
I'll be touching on a specific nature of exactly that with some of the channels that
I'm
watch.
Shocked at how, because I've seen some of the view counts, because they'll pop in every once in a while, or it's somebody that I know, for example, that like does a stream on Twitch or whatever, and once in a while they'll do an unboxing of like a Magic the Gathering set or something, and there's just thousands of people just tuned in, like waiting to see what they get. It's crazy how popular that is. Like all of us have that deep itch that has to be scratched on, like what's in the box,
the whole mystery box culture. Like any pop culture store that you go to, they have a whole area of just mystery boxes. My kids loved getting them for Christmas for years, and you just pop them open. Like when we sold toys at the tattoo shop, that was our most popular item, was mystery boxes. People love the idea of not knowing what they're getting. So there's definitely a whole brand of internet.
You mean like Flash, like pieces of Flash that become tattoos and people don't know what they're getting?
No.
Oh, I was like, that's a commitment. Holy shit.
That is a thing, though. That is actually a thing.
I'm sure there's a subset of people that are like,
No, there's a whole culture of gumball machine tattoos. Basically, you pay the $100.
Yeah, the price is fixed, and it's just whatever comes out of the gumball.
Yep, it's a get what you get, and people love it. People love that, and so a lot of shops have adopted the get what you get gumball machine, where they give you a token for $100, and you plunk it in the machine, and you turn it, and the thing comes out. You open it up, and you pull out, and the design is in that little thing, and you go, "This is what I'm getting." And if you like, sometimes they have an option that if you spend another $20, you can actually roll again if you absolutely can't have the design that's in there, and you can do a rollover for an extra $20. But
that's insane. Is it all like Flash pieces that the artists in the shop have created and then fed into the gumball machine, or is it like random imagery and shit?
It's all stuff that the people of the shop have like, and then they fold it up and they put it in those little capsule balls and throw them in there.
I see.
Then,
so you could get anything from like a pinup girl to a rose to a anchor to a whatever.
They're typically fairly simple. And some of them, like some places have multiple ones. They're like, hey, these are rather tame, just regular stuff. This stuff's a little weird. This stuff's psycho weird stuff. And so that way you can
choose your destiny level. Kind of. So that stuff always blows me away at how popular those things are. So
but I really love this segment.
Nice.
And I think that I got a lot of material for it. So we're gonna do the dope every week.
Nice.
Give you guys the dope.
We'll feature some dopamine on the dope.
Yep.
All right. So you have a couple movies too. I'm sadly have watched zero things this week. So
I do have some movies, and unfortunately, neither one of them were dope. So, yeah. So today I decided to watch because I was supposed to watch it last night, and I got too tired and ended up falling asleep. But the it is really difficult right now to find anything new.
Yeah.
On any of the streaming services, and I don't know if there was some type of weird gap that we're in the middle of the release dates for a bunch of gap material, but I notice when that happens, some of the streaming services will put together two kind of people who are either hot, actors that are, and do an odd couple kind of scenario where they kind of piece together a action flick around it and then put it straight to streaming. That seems to happen quite a bit in the lulls that I see stuff coming out from Hollywood. And right now, like, I searched everywhere last night for something new that wasn't horror, because I'm trying to break away from horror stuff and watch something different. And I landed on the only thing that was available that kept getting fed to me anyway, and it was called Playdate. And Playdate is a 2025 PG-13 hour and a half action comedy featuring Alan Rickson. Rickson.
Yeah, the guy that plays Jack Reacher, right? Big guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big guy. Yeah. So, and then Kevin James. And it is about as, man, I'm going to say schlocky and as sloppy a writing. Like, it was crazy. It has a decent cast. I'm not a big Kevin James fan to begin with. I've never really kind of bought into his pacing of comedy, but and Alan Rickson, he's been somebody who I've enjoyed in the past, but he's on a personal level somebody I don't really care for on a political kind of thing, but sure. I can still enjoy some of his work.
Yeah, he was fun in the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Like, that was fun.
He was great. Yeah. But in this particular case, this movie started off with kind of a fun, strong premise where a stepdad with a kind of a non-sportsy, more nerdy, dancey kid that he's trying to relate to in a new marriage takes his stepson out for the day to go throw the ball around football, and he randomly runs into this guy who's throwing a football with his son that's huge, and they're really aggressive, and he's kind of taken aback, but the guy's extra super friendly and attaches himself to him, and it escalates very rapidly into this guy is a special ops dude that is being hunted, and Kevin James doesn't really get it, like, what's going on, and then he starts to piece together that the kid that is supposedly this dude's son isn't his son, and it goes into such slapsticky comedy after that. Even the action scenes are really forced. The CGI is really poor, and then the jokes feel forced, and they use characters that don't go anywhere. Like the wife of Kevin James, early on in the movie, they leave like a Chuck E. Cheese type of scenario, and they get called in as kidnappers for these kids, and there's Amber Alerts going all over the news, and there's billboards and all over the place. Yet somehow the wife is never clued into this, and another 40 minutes into the movie, she's grocery shopping. And, her husband's on every news channel as a kidnapper, yet she's completely unaware. And, the cops never contacted her. So there's a lot of sloppy writing in this. And then they use, like, an amazing actor, Alan Tiddick.
Yeah.
From, and he's an amazing, gifted, character actor.
Yeah.
And they completely waste him in this movie. Like, you think he's going to have this great role. He has a couple of, like, no, you're a bitch comments, and that's it. Like, and there's no point for him being there. Isla Fisher plays, like, a playground mom group that's kind of mafioso. And she's in, like, 2 scenes, and then they just don't talk about her anymore. The ending is absolutely absurd. By the 3rd act, you're going into, like, the cheesiness of, like, Spy Kids territory.
Sure.
And then the ending doesn't make a lick of sense. They literally murder, like, I don't know, 300 kids with a click of a button and a big boom, and they walk away from the explosion. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. I know that they're all, like, assassin kids, but, like, they're still kids.
We just killed a bunch of kids. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the cops never get involved. They don't ever have to deal with anything. They just go back to their normal lives. Like, it's really sloppy writing, basically, to put these 2 dudes in a movie together, and it didn't make a lick of sense. And so, even with my ability to suspend my disbelief and enjoy a movie for the sake of the movie, if it's funny enough, I'll give it some leeway.
Sure.
None of this, like, Stephen Root was in this movie for a scene, and he's comedy gold, and they wasted him too. Like, none of it made sense. I give this 2.5.
Oh my, 2.5 megs.
2.5 megs with a tail end on that.
Okay.
So, like, it. Yeah,
not that great.
There was a couple
falling toward 2 megs total.
Yeah, there was a couple of scenes that were kind of funny, and their kind of chemistry together actually kind of worked if they had a better script.
Yeah,
like, I could feel that, like, if there was something more substantial to this and a better story, that these 2 would have actually made a decent movie together.
Sure.
And it felt like they were not given that opportunity. So, 2.5 megs, just a waste of film.
It's funny how, like, bad writing is bad writing, but when it's like we kind of endear ourselves to comically bad writing, like, I wholeheartedly miss the 1980s do whatever you want cocaine era flick, where you get the likes of Steven Seagal and all. Like, what are we doing? You're a cook that's a Navy SEAL somehow, with the worst one-liners in the history of time, and, like, but
we accepted it because there was certain.
Yeah, you're like, who's this Tommy Lee Jones guy? He's great, part of me misses all that, but you could just tell they were like, sounds good, here's cash, do it,
Yeah. And the other one was 2025, and this was a theatrical release too. And I didn't have high hopes for it other than stylistically, because the trailer kind of looked cool.
Yeah.
But it's a Paul W. S. Anderson film, and he's not known for his.
Is he the
Academy
dejected
Award
brother of
films.
Paul Thomas Anderson?
I have no idea, but, like, he's the guy who's responsible for all the Resident Evil movies.
Yeah, not the guy that did Magnolia.
No, not that guy.
And what was the Dirk Diggler movie? Boogie Nights. Not PTA, PWSA.
Right. So this is
Sag.
And he was one of the writers. But the thing is that one of the other things that kind of clued me, like, wanted me to watch this, was that this is a short story by George R.R. Martin, the same guy who is responsible for
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, right? And so this was one of his, and it's a dystopian. A queen sends the powerful and feared sorceress Grey Alice to, which is hilarious because who plays Grey Alice is Mila Jovovich.
Okay.
Who is
and quickly this film is called In the Lost Lands, right?
In the Lost Lands. Sorry,
Yep.
I forgot to say that. But Mila Jovovich, who is married to Paul W.S. Anderson, was also named Alice in Resident Evil movies, right? To the ghostly wilderness of the Lost Lands in search of a magical power where the sorceress and her guide, the drifter Boyce, must outwit and outfight man and demon. So it is set in a nondescript dystopian future that kind of mixes. It's very Mad Maxian, but also has like an element of like the church has taken over, and you know, no one goes outside of the cities because there's nothing but mutants and demons out there. So it's got Mad Max meets like Judge Dredd, and a couple, it's kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of these different things. Almost, it has a little bit of a Jupiter Ascending feel to it as well, and then almost a Dungeons and Dragons kind of element as well. But it is quite possibly, I mean, stylistically, it was beautiful. It was really well done. It's a gorgeous film, and they did a really good job with like the special effects. But it was so off the rails with the dialogue. It was embarrassing to watch. You're like, oh, why did you say, like, you can't say that. And I'm talking out loud to the characters on the screen going, that was horrible. Why would you say that? And it was continuous throughout the whole thing. Everyone's decision making was exactly the wrong way to make a decision.
If you were to shoot this movie, they took the worst take out of every scene and then still edited it incorrectly.
That is correct. Yeah.
Got it.
The ending was just so ham-fisted and like, oh, seriously? Like, it was such a red herring kind of ending that, and the dude, what the bad guys should get in the end, they're just rewards of like getting kind of taken out. None of that really happens, and it just felt poorly edited, poorly scripted. The dialogue was awful, and they just put this kind of beautiful veneer over the top of it. And so this one was a little better than the last one, but I mean, if you're into kind of cheesy sci-fi, dystopian stuff, I would say it was probably about 4.5 megs to the end. Not quite 5, but
from master storyteller Paul W.A.S.D. Anderson.
Yeah, so just not great. But
so sad.
The one thing though that I will say is that I got word, and just so that I'm not capping this off with 2 bad movie reviews, but I did get my dog is barking like crazy right now. I hate him. But I did get word that we are getting my favorite, a 3rd season of my favorite show, and I didn't think we were going to get one because at the end of season 2, you don't really know what's going to happen, and in fact, it kind of seals it off and is a really great ending. So I wanted more. This show is called Primal, and Primal is far and away my favorite show, and it is an animated show. And it is done by, and I always forget his name because it's a Russian name. It's like the guy who did like Samurai Jack and stuff like that.
Oh,
but this is a show
I've seen this. You turned on one of the tattoo owners down here to that show.
I did
a year ago or so, right?
Yeah. I've actually turned on a lot of people to this show. Yeah. So a friend of mine, Justin, turned me on to it. Justin, who was on the show, he's the one who turned me on to it. Nice. And it's incredible. It is one of the most beautifully animated shows, and it has no dialogue. It's based off of a Howard, the guy who created Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah. Different Conans for sure.
Yeah. Conan the Barbarian. He's the writer Robert Howard, who wrote those. This was a short story that he wrote prior to Conan.
Mm-hmm.
So like from the 20s or 30s, he wrote this short story, and it's based on a caveman by the name of Spear, and him begrudgingly at the precipice of society coming out of the muck and the mire of the caveman era. And obviously it's historically blurry, but
sure.
Because when you're writing it in the 20s and 30s, you don't really have an understanding of how much distance between all of those civilizations. But where dinosaur, like he befriends a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Through tragedy and force, they become compatriots and travel and traverse across different adventures. And it is one of the most heartfelt, beautiful shows, wildly gory and violent at times and super fun. But no dialogue. It is literally grunts and growls, and that's it. But you get so much emotion from each of the characters, from Spear and Fang, and they have touching moments together, and it is just so
it sounds
heartfelt.
identical to the new Jurassic Parks, but better.
Yes, way better. Yeah. So, but it ends on a note at the end of the second season that is bittersweet, and you could have capped it off there, but as of January 11th, we're getting to season 3. So once that comes out, I will absolutely be doing a review on season 3 of Primal. I'm very much looking forward to it. I was very surprised. Nice. So I'm kind of looking forward to the new Stranger Things that I think comes out tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
I am looking forward to Fallout. Fallout is supposed to come back in December. I think it's December. So I'm like actually pretty stoked on that because I like all the characters in that. I'm quite familiar with the lore of the video game, and I think it was super well casted. And
agreed.
Like, can't wait. So hopefully, I know they're gonna do a Fallout New Vegas plot line to this based on what I'm seeing in the trailers. So it's gonna be quite interesting how they like correlate season 1 to this new one. But I can't imagine the budget on that. I assume it's enormous, so I don't know how long its life cycle is. But we'll see, because they renewed Gen Z versus the Gen Xenomorph, and budget was ridiculous. So like I have no idea that got renewed. So hey, maybe there's hope for things like Fallout and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Otherwise, I don't have my eye on anything really other than that, besides Landman and Mobland.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm going to try to squeeze Landman season 2 in and try to, because I think they'd go week by week, so I can't review it all entirely. So,
Paramount doesn't like to dump seasons the way that Netflix does, and you either love the binging or you hate it. My lifestyle affords binging because I don't have time to watch stuff, and then I have a window of time to watch stuff, and I can't episodically follow shit on the day after day or week after week. But yeah,
I might wait a couple more weeks to get so I can get a good chunk of the episodes in. So, but yeah, I think all we have left is our Overlord
tips to being an Overlord. It's time. This holiday season, why not keep building a master plan to become your very own Overlord? And we're going to show you how to do it. We got the blueprint.
Yes, we do. And this week we have number 9.
Yeah.
Yep. So, says, I will not include a self-destruct mechanism unless absolutely necessary.
Sure.
If it is necessary, it will not be on a large red button labeled danger.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Do not push.
Yeah.
The big red button marked do not push will instead trigger a spray of bullets on anyone stupid enough to disregard it.
Oh, this is great.
Similarly, the on-off switch will not clearly be labeled as such. So don't telegraph everything you're going to do.
This is
Do
great
not
news.
put big red buttons to say this is what's gonna to stop my plan. You know, like you can't put those in a way that your detractors are going to be able to thwart you. So do things subtly. Do things subtle switches, like play below the radar on all things, including your self-destruct buttons. If you absolutely need one, and that's only like a kill man, you know, what are they called?
Kill switch?
A kill switch, you know, like dead man switch, you know. Yeah. You know, have a dead man switch, but don't let anyone know where it is but you.
I couldn't agree more. I've thought about this for so long, like especially the don't touch, and then instinctively it's just video after video of people just touching. And it's like, where is the trap door that leads to a den of starving lions? And be like, it said don't touch. The very first thing you did was touch hungry lions. Like
hungry lions.
Yeah.
It'll also weed out loyalty, you know, like so like anybody who's willing to go touch your big red button that says don't touch, and they're met with a spray of bullets or a lion's den.
Yeah.
They weren't with you, fam. They weren't with you. They're not your team.
Obviously
and
not.
So yeah, it's a
somehow
great way
this
to
will make its way into an RPG.
Yes.
No, this is great news.
I
think we've provided a lot of knowledge. There's still more to come on this, but yeah, don't label the on-off switch the on-off switch. Keep it close to you. Keep it personal. If it says don't touch, that's what you mean. Be as forthcoming as you possibly can. Weed out everybody that doesn't play along. You know, that's it. I love this.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. So that's number 9. And we'll be on to 10 next week.
I love it. Well,
right.
I think that's it for us tonight. Happy holidays. Happy Thanksgiving to those that are celebrating it. I hope you have safe travels if you're traveling. I certainly have my fingers crossed. Yeah, I think we should be on for next week. I think everything should be fine.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
I'm not going anywhere.
Nice.
So.
Well, awesome. I appreciate it. Everybody, I hope you have a wonderful and happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.